Good evening, guys, and welcome to Saturday night. It is Revolutionary Change, pontificating with Pete. Hope you guys are all doing great. It has been one whirlwind of a weekend so far. For those of you who are curious about the comings and goings of our channel, here's one thing that I should tell you all that happened just the other night. We got demonetized in a very big way. And why? Because we decided to cover the story about Hind Rajab and the American soldiers that have been caught, starting with Sean Glass. And so to say that we are going to continue to get slandered, we're going to continue to get suppressed, we are going to continue to be climbing up a Gino, that's not the answer, baby. It is the Zionists. Now, a lot of them happen to be Jews, sure, but that's not the answer. So I want to be very crystal clear with everybody. Just remember, if we say across the board that this is just a Jew problem, what you're going to get is the Zionists continuing to benefit from our hostility. Now, our hostility is completely founded, but if we want to do away with the Zio state, it's not going to happen by us continuing to push people that have ways and means in a direction that they're not going to want to go in. Because as I've said before, Jessica Donnelly points it out, it's an elite problem. So when we say it's the Jews, we're playing right into their hands. And that's not to say that an overwhelming majority of numbers are in their favor, but they also control a substantial portion of the financial and political infrastructure. And do you really think if we continue to push that message out there that we're going to see the change that we want? We're not going to. So it is an imperative upon us. If you want it to change, which we are trying to make happen, I can't stress enough that one of the biggest problems we see in politics on a regular basis is the inability to do nuance. So if we can't nuance this issue, we're never going to get where we want to go. If you want to see the end of the Zio state, and especially its control, of course you're welcome on this channel. If you are an ardent supporter of Israel, then no, you're not welcome, because we're trying to deal with it. Now, if you're here to learn and perhaps recognize why there is a major flaw in supporting the state of Israel, then you're more than welcome here. That's the whole point, guys. We're not here to hold anybody's hand. This is not a, this is not a shit-lib channel by any chance. In fact, that's the last political ideology that we would have anything to do with. We're also very aware of what works and what doesn't work. And so that's why I want everyone to be aware of this. That's why it is so imperative that we get this right, because if we don't get it right, it's going to, not only is it going to be bad for us, but it is especially going to be bad for the however many left, let's say 1 million Palestinians that are still out there, that are still fighting for survival. Like Jen and I have said repeatedly, the only reason there was even a announcement, even a suggestion, a hint at the prospect that there was some type of a ceasefire is very simple. It was done under the pretext of it's getting a little too hot in the kitchen. And because it's getting too hot in the kitchen, they want to draw as much attention away from it as humanly possible. So by saying that there's a ceasefire, there is a natural inclination to think, nah, maybe things aren't so bad. Maybe they're going to get better. Maybe we're okay now. But obviously, we're not okay. In fact, things are just getting perpetually worse because everything is now being done under the cover of night. So make no mistake, we have a lot of work ahead of us. And that's why when I see comments like that, I want people to understand why this is such a volatile situation. And it isn't getting better anytime soon. We know it's not getting better anytime soon because we've seen the depravity within which our elected officials are willing to go in order to maintain their fiefdom. That's for starters. That's not everything, but it's a start. But then you have other individuals who are willing to go to even greater lengths to protect their brand, their identity, or whatever you want to call it. But in the end, the whole point is that they want nothing more than for everything to be maintained as status quo. That's why you have nincompoops like Ted Cruz showing up at John Hagee's megachurch and saying, we must support Israel. It is imperative that we support Israel. And by doing so, the charade continues. Now, I think we have more luck in turning the corner with a lot of these Christian Zionists than we do with the Jewish Zionists. The reason being is that the Christian Zionists do not sit on the economic high hog the way that the Jewish Zionists do. So I do think that there is something to be said for what we're going to be able to accomplish by going after them. Now, there are certain people out there that would have us believe that we have turned a corner and that things are finally getting better. But I'm here to tell you, not only have they not gotten better, they are actually getting worse. Now, I don't want you guys to lose your lunch, if you will, but it's probably going to happen as a result. Now, for those of you that know how highly we think of Randy Fine, not so fine, well, he decided that he's going to put forth a piece of legislation, I kid you not, about dual citizenship support for the United States. This is a guy who, when he was in the state legislature in Florida, never wore a little hat, yarmulke, on his head, ever. As soon as he got to Congress, he's wearing it every time he's in session. So here's a guy whose loyalty is clearly to not the United States, but to that little made-up nation state across the ocean, or should I say apartheid, genocidal apartheid state. So he decided that he was going to go on with a very popular podcaster, probably in his own mind. If you think Randy Fine is vomit-inducing, that's not enough. Let's add one more to the list. Let's add Laura Looney Loomer.
Your Sharia Act, I want to go through some of the specifics of the legislation. Do you have any plans to outlaw displays of Sharia law? So, for example, we have halal slaughter in places like Dearborn and Hamtramck. One of the issues that has become very prevalent is the sacrifice of animals in residential areas where Muslims will literally slice the throats of goats and other livestock animals for their, so-called religious celebrations.
You see, this is the type of ignoramus behavior that somebody like Loomer likes to display. And Fine, of course, goes right along with it because he's just as big an ignoramus as she is. One thing that is practiced, and for anybody who happens to be Muslim that's in the chat can speak to this. One of the things about Muslim culture when it comes to the slaughter of animals is to do it as humanely as possible. The reason why they tend to go directly for the throat in certain spots is because it almost immediately kills the animal so that it doesn't have to suffer. So when Looney Loomer tries to talk about an issue like this, she's coming at it from a completely ignorant place. And when people are ignorant about other cultures, it only further confirms why the worst people that are in positions of power are often the most ignorant as well. Randy Fine is not going to push back on this because he doesn't even know what the real answer is. But of course, they have more to say.
And then you have residential areas that are covered in animal carcasses and covered in guts and covered in blood. And then additionally, in terms of the halal animal sacrifice in residential areas, and also, like burqas and niqabs, do you have any plans in the No Sharia Act to ban the niqab, ban the hijab, and ban the burqa? We just saw this weekend that Portugal banned the burqa from public places. Places like France, kind of crazy, right? They've allowed themselves to be totally Islamified, yet the burqa is banned.
Well, if you're going to ban the burqa, you might as well ban the yarmulke too. Why would you ban one and not the other? Because we all know that there is no way that that is getting put in there. I can't tell because Randy Fine's head is so fat whether or not he's wearing one right now or not. But maybe he is. And I would imagine that that part of the legislation does not include, okay, the kippah. Do not ban the kippah. If you're going to ban one, you ban the other. But again, why ban it? Do you believe in free speech? Do you believe in the constitutional right to free speech, or do you not? Or do you just decide that everything else is in play except for anything related to Israel? I can't decide who's a more detestable person, but I got to tell you, if you could get two of the worst people together at once, considering that they're both in South Florida, I would say that this is pretty good competition. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Who's worse, Laura Loomer or Randy Fine?
So this bill would not let you pass a law that said you have to wear a burqa. It wouldn't ban the wearing. So it says you can't create Sharia legal code.
I don't know in whose mind, including his, that would think that anyone is trying to create some type of a Sharia code in the United States. That is looking for a problem where none exists. Again, we have, as of today, 3 elected representatives at the federal level that identify as Muslim. We have over 500 federally elected representatives that are under the thumb of the state of Israel. So as I said, they're creating a problem where a problem doesn't exist. And he's really going to put this bill up. And the scary part about it is that the Zion Nazis that control our Congress might actually get their representatives, because they own them, to vote for this bill. Absolutely insane, but can only imagine what more needs to be said here. All right, we seem to have a problem with the clip, guys, so let me see what the issue might be. I'm going to try it again. Give me 1 second. All right, we may be having some technical issues with this particular clip, but you guys get the idea here. This is a very serious problem, and it's only going to get worse because you're going to see these various types of suppressive censorship type of policies that are going to make it to the forefront of our Congress now. Now it's going to get so much worse because they know that the public is getting restless with this shit. And so Randy Fine is the perfect pawn to be using to do this because he gleefully will put policies up front that will be as anti-Muslim, as pro-Israel as you can possibly make them. He will not hesitate. And I also think at the end of the day, he doesn't give a shit whether he gets to stay in Congress or not, because he knows that of all people, Randy Fine has to know that because of the way he's willing to play ball, that it is very likely, almost assuredly so, that if for whatever reason he is no longer in Congress, if he gets unseated, Baker, getting his first name, but the gentleman who's running against him in the GOP primary, if for whatever reason he is able to unseat him, Randy Fine is going to get a job with some type of a pro-Israel NGO, guaranteed. So for him, he can never not go far enough because this is a career. Congress for him is merely one step. I just want him out of power. I don't want him anywhere near the levers of power. That's the greatest concern, is that Randy Fine is not going to go away. But if he's not, let's at least make it so that he can't make laws that can make this country worse. Thank you, Connie. Aaron Baker is the gentleman who is running in the GOP primary against Randy Fine. We're inviting him on the show. Hopefully he's going to be willing to come on. We'll have a hearty conversation once that occurs. And so, will there be worse legislation that will come about? I have no doubt. I want to try this one more time. Let's see what happens. All right. I think I'm going to have to reload it. That's probably what the issue is here. But I do want you guys to see the additional information pertaining to this clip. So give me 1 second, and let's see if we can get this up here.
You're
to wear a burqa. It wouldn't ban the wearing. It says you can't create Sharia legal codes. But I think looking at a burqa ban and things like that is something that we should absolutely look into. That would just have to be a separate piece of legislation. Again, this bill would say, you know, Dearborn can't now come out and say everyone has to wear a burqa, or all slaughter has to be done halal. That would be the imposition of Sharia law.
So basically, he's picking on Dearborn, Michigan, where the largest Muslim population in the United States exists. They are so afraid of them getting any type of a foothold in our political system that they are willing to go to such lengths to put federal legislation up to mess with basic Muslim culture and custom when it comes to their slaughtering of animals, which again, if you know anything about Muslim culture, you would know that their way of slaughtering animals is supposed to be done in the most humane way possible. So again, this guy who is taking advice from Laura Mossad Loomer, frankly, they're probably both Mossad. They're just looking to be as antagonistic as they can possibly be. They have no interest in actually doing good work. That's of no concern to them. Their concern is how far can they stretch this for his career and for her career? Can they continue to get the money from the Israel lobby, knowing that they're good foot soldiers? And I think you've got your answer. It's pretty obvious that that's the reason they're doing this. There's no demand for this type of law, but he's going to push it because it's good for business until it isn't. That's why we have to keep calling this out.
The bill would not stop the practice of it. That would be separate legislation, if that makes sense.
Would you be open to creating legislation for a nationwide burqa, hijab, and niqab ban?
Well, I think making people wear a full burqa is a problem. I mean, you don't know who they are. And I mean, look, I wear a kippah, so we have to be cognizant of the fact that different people wear different kinds of headwear. But I think the full burqa, where women are completely covered, is something that I think degrades women. And I don't want to.
It's not your fucking business, fat boy. It's not your business. That is their choice. That is their culture. Again, this is the whole concept of, first you've got the First Amendment that's getting thrown out the window. And now you basically are throwing away the Fourth Amendment, right to search and seizure. These people are not allowed to have privacy at all. They're trying to take everything away. So I don't think anything that comes out of Loomer's mouth is anything other than what she's directed to say and to do. And she says it, again, with this disposition of, I'm hot and I'm smart and I know all there is to know about everything. No, you don't. You're a bimbo with a microphone. You're also somebody who has basically been caught with their hand in the cookie jar more times than could be counted when it comes to whether or not they are loyal to the United States. Again, we've got a guy who is as anti-America, pro-Israel as you can possibly be, and he's trying to push legislation through to end dual citizenship. Why don't you start with yourself? I don't know if Randy Fine is the most pro-Israel congressional representative, but if you told me he was, and it could be verified, I'd believe it. This person puts Israel first, and by conjunction puts, and by that measure, he's putting the United States last. Anybody who is putting Israel first is putting the U.S. last. So it is an imperative upon us to not put up with this shit. I know it's not easy. And it's great when over 500 people are watching our channel, but we need to get to 5,000 people watching our channel. We need people in their own communities talking about this issue, talking about the issue of our federally elected representatives who answer to a very small handful of rich, aristocratic oligarchs. That's a big problem, guys. This is our reality on the domestic side. Like I said, there's not a lot that we could do to control what is going on in Palestine. What we can do is control what we are doing here stateside. And what we're doing here stateside cannot involve shying away from dealing directly with the likes of Randy Fine and, to a lesser extent, Looney Loomer. Because let's be honest, we're not alone in this endeavor. I know she's not somebody who, again, is pulling the levers of power right now, but she still has a lot of sway. Like, don't misunderstand. I know we all look at her like she's a cretin, and no question about it that she is. But in the end, she is still getting a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of influence because of whether it is an illicit relationship that she has with the president of the United States, whatever it is, she is still being afforded a platform where pro-Israel, probably only pro-Israel, congressional representatives are showing their faces on her channel. But they're still going there. They are still going there, and it is still imperative that we address this issue. And if we're going to address it, we must acknowledge that there is a lot of work to be done. Because, as I said, we can look at this from afar and say, there's no way this is going to get any traction. There's no way that anybody's really going to support such a stupid bill. We've seen pretty stupid bills get pretty far in Congress. So I would be willing to bet that this might actually end up getting some serious traction. And I'll tell you why. The President of the United States, as tough as he wants to make himself out to be, and guys, if you haven't right now, let's check the numbers. I know we're just getting started here on a Saturday night, and of course, we appreciate you all being here with us for the live stream. And if you would be so inclined, I do want to make sure that everybody has hit that like button. If you haven't already, please make sure that you get over and smash it, because that really helps us get this message out to as many viewers as possible. Right now, only 247 of you have hit that like button. And of course, we have almost 600 watching. So if you guys would like to see more people watch the stream tonight, it would obviously be a huge help if you would be so kind as to hit that like button. It doesn't require any money. If there's one thing you guys have probably noticed, if you're regular viewers of the channel, I very seldom, if ever, ask for contributions. We generally go through the super chats once or twice. We always want to acknowledge people's contributions. And so if you could, please make sure, I think it's here, smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. We've passed 80,000. We're at almost 81,000 subscribers now. We're going to get that silver plaque, guys. It's going to happen. And of course, share the stream wherever you can, if you can. And so I bring this up because, as you probably all know, the President of the United States has gone out of his way to talk tough, to act tough. And for the people that are still the true believers, of which he has millions, that still believe in him, there is this idea that they are somehow going to push back on the West Bank being annexed by the Zionist state. This so-called peace deal, which doesn't mean anything, we all know it doesn't, it is imperative that we understand that there is nothing that they are going to do to push back against the real president of the United States, which is what I think a lot of people are coming to terms with. So here's what Milikowski Netanyahu had to say when he was confronted about whether or not he was going to take President Trump seriously about backing off from annexing the West Bank.
נשיא טראמפ אמר מוקדם יותר בראיון לטיים, ישראל לא תספח את הגדה המערבית, כי אני נתתי את מילתי למדינות ערב. הוא אמר לי, אם נעשה את זה, נאבד את התמיכה האמריקאית. האם האמריקאים מכתיבים עכשיו מדיניות לישראל? מה תגובתך?
זה הרי תמיד תגידו, זה לא משנה. אני מאוד מאוד מעריך את התמיכה של הנשיא טראמפ.
So first and foremost, he has to kiss Trump's ass, let him know how much he loves him and how great a guy he really is and what a wonderful job he's doing. But we've got this. We know you mean well, Donnie boy, but trust me when I tell you, we have the right to defend ourselves with your money. That's what he would, but that's what he should say if he had the balls to say. But he's a good politico with those that he needs to be a good politico with. He's a dead man walking as far as I'm concerned. But for the time that he's alive, he's going to say some pretty outlandish things. And this includes thumbing the eye of who is supposed to be the most powerful man in the world. And we know that Trump is just going to sit back and take it. So he's just going to go into Gaza City. He's just going to do what he said he's going to do. And I think we are, again, having some technical difficulties here, guys. So I'm going to have to pull this clip. Hang on for 1 second. We're going to pull it, and then I'm going to upload it one more time. Sometimes when you do live streams, as you know, the technical difficulties can run amok. And I'm by myself tonight. I am hosting and producing. So I'm doing both. Not looking for a hearty handshake or a pat on the back, but this is not easy work sometimes. So we do want to make sure that we get this right. So let's get this up there again.
נשיא טראמפ,
את התמיכה של הנשיא טראמפ, גם במהלכי המלחמה, גם בהחלטה שלי להיכנס לעיר עזה, גם בגיוס שלו של העולם הערבי, כדי להוציא את החטופים שלנו בלחץ צבאי שלנו ולחץ מדיני שלנו.
So now he's still talking about the hostages. I thought we just had a peace agreement. I thought the hostages were free. Or was that a lie? So I guess they're not free. They freed enough so that they could come back and do it again. That's what they did. It's never a question of, will this end? As long as this man has power, it will never end. And that's why Jen said, and I quote, there will be 2 million dead Palestinians in the desert as long as this regime and this genocidal state is able to continue to function. And that's only addressing Gaza. That's not even addressing the West Bank, which Hamas doesn't even exist in. So when anybody tries to sell you on the bullshit about what this genocidal state is up to and what they have always been up to, these lying sacks of shit. Now, believe it or not, he's not even the worst. Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, they're even worse than he is. Those are the type of people that I know would be really, I mean, do you want to talk about ready, willing, and able to drop a nuclear weapon? They would do it without hesitation. And that's why this is such a dangerous situation here. He's got more to say.
הבאנו את 20 החטופים החיים, דבר שאף אחד לא האמין שיהיה, ועכשיו במאמץ שאנחנו עושים, כולל בשיחה הערב עם מרקו רוביו, וקודם לכן עם סגן הנשיא ואנס, כדי לקדם את היעדים של פירוז עזה ופירוק החמאס מנשקו ועוד דברים חשובים לנו. אז זה מה שחשוב, אני חושב שמה שאתה רואה של שיתוף הפעולה בינינו, בין שותפים, זה, אני חושב, ברכה עצומה למדינת ישראל.
Hopefully not for much longer. That is the goal. The goal is to make sure that the state of Israel will no longer exist. It will be Palestine from the river to the sea, and they shall be free. I'm always fascinated by the commentary of ignorant people like Tim Hewitt. Who said I want to live in a Muslim society? Have you ever been to a mosque? They're actually the least preachy people alive. In fact, they're the most welcoming people. If you've ever been to a mosque, let me tell you, you want to talk about a rainbow coalition of all different cultures, of all different colors and creeds, that's a mosque. And I've been to plenty. Ones that are from all different parts of the Middle East, Africa, the United States. Let me assure you, you have been fed a hill of BS for several decades because it's great for business. That's it. And you want to know why our country hates Muslims more than anything else? Because they are a very successful culture. And they don't bow at the altar of capitalism the way that the Judeo-Christian alliance does. See, if it was good for business, and if Muslims just showed fealty towards capitalism at all times, they would have no problem with them. But that's not their culture. They pray 5 times a day because they genuinely want to have a centered life around the teachings of Allah and Muhammad. And they revere Adam, Moses, and Jesus. I don't know how many people, Americans in general, actually know how revered Jesus is in Muslim culture and faith. They probably don't know that. This, to me, also speaks to a greater issue here, because it is also imperative upon us to try to become as welcoming. Yeah, that's another great point. Another great point about Muslim culture is that they don't drink alcohol. They don't partake in the many sins of American and Western culture that cause so much of the grief and hostility in our country. Think about how much better off the United States as a whole would be if we practice smoking cannabis to the extent that we smoke alcohol or drink alcohol. That went over my head. But flip it and think about how much of a difference that would make. Heck, even if we just had a society that just didn't have hard alcohol, if we just had wine and beer and champagne, I think for the most part, we would be a heck of a lot better off. In fact, that's what prohibition was really supposed to be. It was supposed to be a ban on hard liquor, and they went too far and they took everything. If they had left wine and beer and champagne alone, it might have held. There would have still been a black market for hard liquor, but it would have been nothing like what ended up happening as a result of, Murder Inc., the Chicago outfit, Al Capone, and the like. But everything that Israel represents is everything that our culture is at its worst. And that is the difference. The worst shadow of the United States is reflective in somebody like Milikowski. Because so many people are having to come to terms with just how evil and depraved our culture really is. And Muslim culture isn't depraved. And that drives them crazy. They're also much, much higher educated than the average American is. No, Richard, we won't. Islam is in nobody's business anyway. And you're about to find out just how dangerous and scary Muslims really are, because you're going to have a Muslim mayor, unless somebody kills him, in the most powerful city in the world. So we'll see exactly what he's going to do and how dangerous it's going to become. And I wonder if you would change your tune if, in fact, positive things started to happen in New York City. We are going to talk about Zoran on Monday when Jen is here, because he gave a very, very impressive speech and rebuttal to the insane level of bigotry that is getting thrown in his direction right now as he is on the verge of becoming the next mayor of New York, the most progressive mayor since Fiero LaGuardia, which was over 80 years ago. So it's a long time coming, 3 generations worth. But I can assure you, just as the chat reflects, as we approach 750 live viewers, it's the few that stand out that are upset. The overwhelming majority recognize things for what they are. And while New York and a number of other places celebrate, not as a whole, but, you know, have a swath of people that support the Zionist cause, their ideology is on the way out. It's not going to last, guys. I know they think it'll last, and maybe it'll last for a little longer than we would like it to. But make no mistake, this will not hold. It hasn't held for, I mean, shortly after what transpired on October 7th, so many people became aware of all of the BS that was the Zionist state. And what we've also realized is this, what you would probably have to call a humiliation ritual that the average person has to go through to, I would say, get the paycheck. We've seen what a lot of others are willing to do in order to gain acceptance and financial stability as a result of supporting the Zionist state for the time being while the money's hot. Because for now it is, but we all know that there is a high likelihood that it's eventually going to end. Now, if anybody follows our channel from across the pond, and I know we've got a few, and for our friendly UKers that are here or Europeans that are here, we all know that there are some very interesting characters that are in our midst when it comes to being what you would call an agent of Israel. We could call them what we want, but these are paid actors is probably the best way to describe them. And one of the most obvious paid actors that we have that is not in the United States, but is actually across the pond in the UK, and that's Tommy Robinson. Now, I bring up Tommy Robinson because, as you know, we've covered him before, and his real name is Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon, because, of course, he has a fake name, just like Israel is a fake nation. So, of course, the two go hand in hand. Tommy Robinson is a troublemaker, but he's also willing to do the dirty work in order to maintain some type of a career and also stay out of legal trouble in the UK. He was backed financially by the Zionist state to put on that anti-Muslim, because that's what it was, march in the UK that did attract at least, I would say at least 200,000 to 300,000 people. It definitely got a lot of people out, but it's amazing what money can do when one is motivated and wants to make a statement. So, why do I bring this up? Tommy Robinson, for some reason, decided to film his humiliation ritual when getting chastised by the Zionist state, or I guess what you would call their underlings. I'll never understand why anyone would want to put themselves through this. But as I said, you have to go through a humiliation ritual in order to gain acceptance with the Zionist state if you want to be paid. You want to be a paid operative? You have to show how much you truly love Israel. How much do you love us? And how far are you willing to go? Because as I've said before, you can never go far enough. And here's what Tommy decided to post of himself on social media the other day. This is an example of what I think most paid actors, with rare exception, have to go through to get the paycheck, of which it is a very lucrative paycheck, mind you, from the Israel lobby.
He's got a special place in my heart because on the one hand, they really helped give birth to the Jewish state in World War I. The Balfour Declaration, the San Remo Accords, the mandate for a Jewish Palestine. The UK was at the forefront of that.
I like how they don't even hide the fact that this was a coerced, forced apartheid state. The admission of the Balfour Declaration saying, yes, this is exactly how we were formed. We were formed through coercion. It didn't just magically happen. At least you know now that they're running away from that old talking point of a land for people without a land. This is as honest a position that a Zion-Nazi is going to have. So I guess in a way, thank you for at least telling the truth. We know that the Israelis lie when their lips are moving, but I believe this guy is from the United States. So he's a traitor on top of being a Zion-Nazi. But I appreciate his candor. He's got more to say.
And then they turned on us.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They turned on us, man. And therefore they have a special place in hell for turning on the Jewish people.
So you have a Brit who has to listen to an American Zio Jew telling him that his homeland should go to hell. Oh, and by the way, you should accept that and still tell us how much you love Israel. Now, call me crazy. I mean, granted, the UK, particularly England, does not have Scooby-Doo's. I think it's actually, I think Tommy's getting £11,000 a month, which is the equivalent to about, I think, like $13,000 or $14,000 a month in the United States, which means he's definitely, just for his loyalty to the state of Israel, he's making the equivalent of over $100,000 a year just for doing that. Now, of course, there's probably other income streams that he's getting, but that's just one that's paying very well. But imagine going through a ritual where this guy is telling you, to your country, fuck the UK. Now kiss my ass and tell me how much you love Israel. And by the way, how does my ass taste while you're at it? Can you see that far down there, Tommy? He's getting ready to do it. He's got more to say.
You were like doing this great thing. You were helping Israel be reborn after 2,000 years of exile. And
oh, yeah. 2,000 years of exile. I think we have run into a little issue where the clips have been loaded. They're getting chopped, and then I have to reload them again. So hang on. We're going to upload. Give me 1 second. This is only one of a couple. Got another one to show. But here we go.
It's got a special place in my heart because on the one hand, they really helped give birth to the Jewish state in World War I. The Balfour Declaration, the San Remo Accords, the mandate for a Jewish Palestine. The UK was at the forefront of that. And then they turned on us.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They turned on us, man. And therefore they have a special place in hell for turning on the Jewish people. You were like doing this great thing. You were helping Israel be reborn after 2,000 years of exile. And it was, you know, it was a biblical value. It was also a defense for a UK value, but it all turned on us. Can we turn it back?
Can we turn it back? The British government have just turned on Israel. But
they've been turning on us for a long time.
Yeah, but when we say they, it's the British government. So let's separate the people from the establishment. The establishment have turned. It's like when the American establishment were in power under Joe Biden.
The establishment has not turned. It's the people that have turned. It's the establishment that is hanging on by a thread. And who in the fuck does this guy think he is? I'll tell you who he thinks he is. He's like every other Zion Nazi that's out there. Kind of like the clip we played the other day with the Zion Nazis standing in front of Carnegie Hall and giving the to everybody who doesn't like them. Listen, they can act and do whatever the fuck they want on a regular basis. I don't give a shit. Keep doing it. It's perfectly acceptable. Get the fuck out of our politics. Get the fuck out of our financial machinery, our infrastructure. Get out of it. We don't want you. And if we have to force you out, we will force you out. because that's the next step. As we talked about with Anthony Aguilar and Clyde Bosch, there is not enough people making a stand on Capitol Hill, and we need more of that. But the humiliation ritual continues here.
American people didn't support that. The British public don't support what the British government have just done.
If
If it was put to a democratic vote on whether the British public wished to recognise the state of Palestine, it would be a resounding no. It would be a resounding no.
Who the hell are you speaking for, little Tommy? Who do you think you're speaking for? The state of the United Kingdom just recognized Palestine. So what the fuck are you talking about? It's the people who don't want it. The bureaucrats want it if it's good for business. But the people have had it. And so goes the UK. Hopefully so goes us. We'll finish it up.
So the people haven't turned on Israel. The people haven't turned on Jews. The left-wing establishment have turned because they're appeasing their bloc vote and they're appeasing their future vote.
Oh, so it's definitely a left versus right thing now. Of course. Yes. Well, if you think that this was a humiliation ritual, you haven't seen anything yet. This gets even worse. Now, this gentleman, who I think his name is displayed, is also going to show you just how short of a man Tommy Robinson is. But this almost seemed like a warning more than anything else.
Will your leadership maintain the European, the Judeo-Christian values and the Western way of life that Europe enjoyed for so many years and the freedoms that we share? Or will they cave in? Because when the immigrants come in small numbers, they seek to assimilate. When they come in large numbers, they seek to dominate. The question is, who's stronger? Who will win? And will the Europeans manage to unite, to stand against the forces of radicalism and extremism and fundamentalism? 80 years ago, we have lost 6 million of our people.
You have
6 million of our people.
Notice how he wanted to make a statement there. He wanted to comment, and this guy said, no, I'm still talking. 6 million. There was 1,000% a Holocaust. I am not convinced that the number was actually 6 million. It's probably at least a few million, I would gather. Based on empirical evidence, I studied a lot about the Holocaust when I was in college. But the one thing that's always stuck with me the most regarding this issue, especially when he projects 6 million, 6 million, 6 million. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it's somewhere close to that. Let's just do that. They want to pretend like almost 30 million Russians were not mass slaughtered during World War II. Like, that's just, forget that happened. Forget that, what was it, at least 1 million, or was it, I don't remember the exact number, of Polish people were mass murdered. How about the gypsies? How about the handicapped? How about the people of color? We just want to pretend that the atrocities of the war. How about North Africa? How about the Japanese? Does anybody ever talk about the 2 nuclear bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki today like they would have incessantly if this had... Could you even imagine if this was something that was done to Zios? What that would be like? They would probably put up images of the bombs all over their offices and never let us hear the end of it. But they're going to pretend like that's not true. forever the victim, and they can be if they want, but not on our dime, not today, not tomorrow, not ever again. Let's make it so.
Men, women, children, elders. We are a people that remembers. We don't forget. What you see here on my desk, this book, a very large one, a very heavy one, contains only one word. Very small, very tiny, almost invisible, only one word. And that word is Jew. It's written here 6 million times.
If this is not indoctrination propaganda of the worst kind, you've never seen it before. This isn't just a humiliation ritual. This is a threat of bodily harm to understand that if you cross the Zio state, yeah, your name might end up in this book. As a Jew, you'll be referred to as Jew, but this is not meant to elicit feelings of sadness or guilt. It's meant to elicit feelings of fear and retribution forever and a day. And so long as we're party to this, this is what's coming. Feeling the need to push somebody like Tommy Robinson tells you all you need to know. Tommy's on his knees. He'll lick their ass if they need it. He'll give them a reach around at the same time if you want it. But no, that's not enough. Let's make sure that he never questions us, no matter what we do. Now, to the average person who's watching here tonight, you see something like this, it probably freaks you out. But for Tommy Robinson, this is part of the humiliation ritual that he has to go through. And he's taken it for all it's worth.
And when you hold it and you realize that every line represents your classroom, every few lines, the whole school, every page is a village, every few pages a town, it is only then that you realize what we, the Jewish people, have lost during the Holocaust and what it is that we fight for in our one and only Jewish state in our country.
It's not your country. It's not your state. You are a lie. Everything you stand for is a lie, and we will deal with you. Your power vacuum is coming to an end. You have to pay people like this sack of shit to get on his hands and knees for your money to go out there and preach your genocidal apartheid state message. No more. In fact, that was the message of Zoran's speech. No more. We don't have to take this anymore. So let's not take it. Let us use this view, let us use this image as a reminder of how psychopathic these people are, of how far they are willing to go to push their genocidal ideology. This has reached past a point of no return. There is no coming back from this. There is only the end game. What is the end game? The end of the Israel state as we know it. How do I know this? Because eventually our country is going to rise up universally against that state. We're in the process of it. It's happening now. It hasn't happened fast enough for anybody's liking, but we know we're on our way. We know that it's going to happen because anyone who sees this is going to say these people are psychopathic, out of sight, out of mind. Whatever they're on, I ain't touching it. That's where we're at. We can't get away from them fast enough. Smash that like button if you haven't already. And if you are enjoying this conversation so far, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel as we close in on 81,000 subscribers. I can't thank you all enough. Jen cannot thank you all enough for the amazing support that you have provided that have gotten us to this point. We've been consistently over 800 live viewers so far this evening. You guys are doing an amazing job of helping spread the word. If there is one thing that I am confident in saying is that overwhelmingly, those of you that are here this evening are here because you sought out our channel, because you actually wanted to watch our channel. Not that it came up on some algorithm that somebody told you to come here and look at our channel because they think it's really good for YouTube, Google advertising. No, you're here because our message is resonating and it's helping. And if you do believe in what we're fighting for, you can also go over to the Revolutionary Change Pack. And if you use your phone, click the QR code, you check out our website and check out the 3 candidates that we are supporting thus far. Butch Ware for governor in California, Shama Sawant for Congress in Washington State, and Graham Plattner for senator in the state of Maine. We have our amazing super chatters that are here this evening. So let's give a big shout out to one of our very favorite Big Dumb Animal with the 199, one of our OGs who's been with us for a long time. Thoughts on Dart, Scat, and the Giants overall? I think Dart is the real deal. Scat's the type of ground and pounder that you want to see in terms of a run, what I would consider the dual back, running back / fullback. And I do think the future is bright for the Giants, but I will say in terms of what the biggest issue is here, it's management. And I do think that there is an issue with the coaching staff. I'm not saying that Dave Ball can't coach. I just think he's not the right fit. That's my opinion. But I think the future is bright for our G-men. It's going to take a little time. I've got a very rough schedule this year, but I am very optimistic for the first time, probably since the days of Eli, that I think we're going somewhere. Ask Jen how she feels about the Dolphins right now. Just kidding. Jim Talib with the $5. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Really appreciate you. Shaitan Dadan. I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate you being here. Our friend across the pond, Laug66 with the 10 pounds. Shout out to Catherine Connolly, who just won the Irish presidency in a landslide. That's great to hear. Important to point out the history of the many atrocity. I guess I should say it in my closest Irish accent that I can give you. Important to point out the history of the many atrocities committed by the Israeli regime. I wish we would have more politicians stateside that would say something like that. Reminds me of Claire. Her name is slipping me right now. Somebody help me out. It's not Connolly. Claire Daly. Claire Daly. One of the very best. That's who she reminds me of. Halal bad, kosher good. Take a pick, 1313. Thank you for the $10. No, actually, I don't really care for kosher. I've tried it. I'm not a fan at all, but I like halal. I think that's really good. Just my opinion. Everybody is entitled to theirs. Pirate Justin, thank you for the $5. Jesus, Isa, is mentioned more times in the Quran than any other character. Isa Rullah, Jesus, Spirit of God. Thank you very much. Appreciate that tidbit. Shaitan Dadan, thank you for the $1.99. The U.S. will become a Muslim nation. No, it won't, but thank you for the $1.99. Noah, thank you very much for the $2 super sticker. Much appreciated. And for the $2, thanks for doing all that you do. Well, brother, I do it because I genuinely care. And that is why Jen does what she does as well. And for some reason, you must think I'm doing a really good job this evening because you decided to give $20. 20 million Russians died to prevent Nazi Germany from conquering all of Europe. The West has never thanked Russia for its sacrifice. On the contrary, it has attempted to destroy Russia over and over again. I think we're jealous of Russia. And that's why we give them so much hell. Truer words. And I think that the 20 million is an undercount. Just my opinion. But never forget how close the Nazis came from taking Moscow in the winter of 42. And that is the difference between the Ally victory and the Axis victory. It really was that close. I thank Russia. And never forget who raised the flag over Berlin. We raised the flag over Japan in Iwo Jima. But the Soviet Union raised their flag over Berlin. No matter how many different ways you want to rewrite history, you can't rewrite that one. Chip, thank you so much for the $2. 80K, congrats. Thank you very, very much. And Hala Hamid, thank you so much for the 1999 super sticker. You guys are all amazing. All of your support is tremendously appreciated. And while we don't do this for the money, we do it for the community. But your financial support helps us to do bigger and better things as a channel. And so we thank you. And one more time, patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. And we do have one more we'll take before we continue. Tate's with the $5. We pray to God to protect you. We need more real men just like you, commenting from Ethiopia. Tate's, I just want to tell you, and I want to tell the audience, Das Ethiopian is one of the best restaurants I've ever been to. It's in Washington, D.C. And for those of you that have never eaten Ethiopian food, you have no idea what you're missing. It is as incredible and delicious as any culture that I have had the privilege to experience so far in my life. So I highly recommend it if you haven't tried it. And again, if you guys haven't done so, please make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you share the stream. And we appreciate you supporting our channel as much as you do. So with that said, we do have some interesting additional stories to cover this evening, as you guys have probably seen. Now, I have always been on the side of justice. That is where my focus is. That is the reason that we do what we do. And sometimes, while it may seem strange to certain people, what we end up doing is forming alliances with individuals that, under certain circumstances, you normally wouldn't see as common practice. And I just have to say, as it relates to what is still going on regarding the Charlie Kirk saga, and I know a lot of you are probably here this evening to hear about it, there is a new development that has multiple layers to it. This story's not going away. And as long as we are going to get to the bottom of Israel's involvement in what is going on here, we will not let it die. A gentleman by the name of Ryan Simmons was apparently someone who knew Charlie Kirk personally, was at the event in Utah, and was filming it as well. He has some very important things to say about that experience. Here we go.
So originally when I sent this video in to the FIB.
Or not counting gang violence. Great.
So it looks like I've got to load this one up again. But if there's one thing that you guys have probably seen in the initial shot, no pun intended, it certainly doesn't look like what they were telling you it was. So this gets more and more interesting.
So originally when I sent this video into the FIB.
Or not counting gang violence. Great.
So what I see here, as I'm sure you see as well, I don't see a sniper shot. I see some type of an explosion. The reaction, physical, to the back of his, whether it's his spine, the base of his neck, whatever that is, that doesn't look like a bullet to me. What it looks like is some type of an explosive. Am I crazy? I don't think so. He's got a little bit more to say about this.
For tips, I thought I was doing a service and, you know, to Charlie and helping out. So it started off where I got in contact, was talking to someone at the local field office there in my local state. And then it jumped up a few levels. Then I was talking to someone on like the national level. That person had called me back and they had said, because this was your friend, I think it's best that you erase the video from your phone because it's just going to give you PTSD. And then called it another time to ask if I had erased it.
The FBI is calling Ryan Simmons and telling him, delete this video. You should do it for your own safety and health. Basically warning him that if you don't do it, it's not going to end well for you, pal. Now, one of the best parts about living in the technological age that we live in today is that you can't hide these things the way that you once could. Like I said, you can't murder a president and get away with it the way that you did 60 years ago. Today, people are going to ask questions in a way that they didn't 60 years ago. And if that's not enough, there is also the element of videotape. Somebody was going to record from a certain angle that Charlie Kirk was sitting in that was going to show, yeah, this doesn't add up. Something's going on here. So I'm playing a deleted video. I've reached out to Ryan. I hope he'll be interested in being a guest on our channel. But I do worry for his safety.
That was the first time that I felt like it was even right to post these videos. That was on my other account that was gone and just was removed after 5 years of building it. But so I got a call back and was asked to confirm that it was gone. And again, that's when I started sharing, posting, and saving on many different hard drives in many different places. It's been crazy. It's been rough.
You need to have some type of a kill switch, because if you have more evidence and they are going to try to make it look like an accident if they come for you, how many other people saw something that they shouldn't have seen? And they've already gotten that phone call to tell them, watch your step. Be very careful who you talk to. I've already had the police show up at my door, so I already know we're on the radar. And they're going to continue to come for us. They're going to continue to suppress the shit out of our channel. But as I said, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Something very sinister and evil is happening to our country right now. It's reaching its breaking point, and I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and pretend like I'm not trying to save it, or at least usher it into the type of change that it desperately needs. I will not look back on this moment in history and question whether I did enough. I'll always believe that I didn't do enough, but I'll at least know that I tried and tried to do something good. Ryan Simmons has a lot of balls. And since he put this out on TikTok, I would be shocked if it's still up. Now, usually they can't get these things all at once, but if it gains a substantial amount of traction, they're eventually going to pull it. And they're going to say that, yeah, it was violent. You showed Charlie Kirk getting killed. We can't have that. Now, Ryan, for his own safety, I hope, has made at least some plans to take care of himself. God forbid anything happens. He's got more to say.
Originally, when I sent this video into the FIB for tips, I thought I was doing a service and, to Charlie and helping out. So it started off where I got in contact. I was talking to someone at the local field office there in my local state. And then it jumped up a few levels. Then I was talking to someone on the national level. That person had called me back and they had said, because this was your friend, I think it's best that you erase the video from your phone because it's just going to give you PTSD. And then called it another time to ask if I had erased it. That was the first time that I felt like it was even right to post these videos. That was on my other account that was gone and just was removed after 5 years of building it. But
removed after 5 years. So this is a guy who was posting content, never had an issue until it became an issue because he crossed a Rubicon that you're not supposed to cross. And there are people out there who still think that the patsy, as we refer to him, is the person who did the deed. People like Jack Posobiec putting out videos saying that they found a palm print of the guy. If you watch this video and you still think that was a sniper shot, go fuck yourself. You're working for the Mossad as far as I'm concerned. And you're a traitor to this country on top of that. Either you have the guts to say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, or get the fuck out of here. As I've said on this stream, I'll say on every stream, I don't have any love for Charlie Kirk. I respected the hell out of his grift. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And he knew how to command the Christian Zionist flock, and that's what he was paid millions of dollars to do. But then he decided to get his head right in the right way. And the powers that be said, oh, no, you don't. You're going to do what we say. That's why Bill Ackman dragged him out to the Hamptons. And as far as I'm concerned, Bill Ackman had something to do with his demise. I believe that. I'm never changing my mind. And lo and behold, what happened? He's dead. And they had, and people that were in positions had a choice. What do you want to do? You want to get in line? You want to keep making money? Or do you want to end up like Charlie? It'd be really unfortunate if that were to happen to you too, They don't come out right and say that they're going to kill you. You know what they do? They do exactly what that piece of ever-loving Zio scumbag shit did with Tommy Robinson. He opens up a book, shows it to him, and basically tells him, you have a choice here. I am showing you a book of 6 million Jews dead naming because we want you to understand how serious we take this and what will happen to you if you even think about getting out of line. And more than ever, they have to employ these tactics. Why? Because they're losing control. For so many years, for so many generations, they've always had to execute, in more ways than one, violent, overt, systemic control over the masses and over the proxies that do their dirty work. But now it's not holding like it once did. So now the measures are getting that much more desperate. Now they have to go to even greater lengths to get people to shut up, to get people to get in line and do as they're told. Don't ever question us, or you will meet your demise. You have a video that actually shows what happened to Charlie Kirk? You better keep that video to yourself, buddy, because we're watching you, and we will come and get you if we have to. You could tell how scared Ryan was, but he felt that he had to put that video out there. And to his credit, like I said, guys, I'm not suicidal. I'm not crazy. I'm just searching for the truth. And perhaps get in trouble for putting that out there. Who knows? Who knows if our channel is going to get demonetized again? Who knows if I'm going to get a phone call? I was getting a phone call from a bunch of different phone numbers from New York and Los Angeles calling me in the middle of the night, threatening voicemails, saying things like, you're going to be sucking Israel cock for the rest of your life, blah, 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 blah. I'm not kidding. So I'm letting you know now how deep this goes. Now, do I take that guy seriously? Well, listen, he's got to call me from a fake number. It was an untraceable line. So naturally, I'm going to, just think, oh, okay. So they're trying to give me the business and try to see, hey, well, maybe if we scare him, he'll back off. Hey, it's not going to be easy. You have to have a huge level of tolerance to be able to do this, to bear witness, to fight this fight. It's not easy. We cannot back off. We're too close. We're too close to breaking through. But if you see anyone out there pushing the Tyler Robinson story, you tell them to go to hell, along with Israel, because that's who they're working for. I'll tell you somebody who's not working for Israel. Two people, actually. Candace Owens and our friend James Lee. Candace Owens, who's been on sabbatical, had this to say about her friend Charlie Kirk and the President of the United States.
Needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And
it didn't mean anything. Who the fuck is Charlie Kirk? He's just another name. Yeah, he was good at what he did to getting the flock on board with what we were doing. But Candace, who are you kidding? And who are you? Yeah, you got a large platform. You're doing really good. But this is why you are now basically not able to go out in public. You have to travel under the cover of night. You have to have security with you at all times because you dared question the real power structure that made things go. Things were really good for Candace for a number of years. She played right into Conservative Inc. She had a hell of a platform. She had a hell of an alliance, not just with Charlie Kirk, but with dog shit Ben Shapiro as well. But then she had an attack of conscience, and she couldn't get away from it. She probably tried to lie to herself for a while, especially because the money was so good. But if you have any sort of a moral compass, and you see the inhumanity that has been bestowed upon the Palestinian people, the inhumanity of the Israel cause, her conversation with Norman Finkelstein for the first time, and her being brought to tears, listening to Norman talk about his parents being murdered in the Holocaust, and understanding the work that he's done to prevent such a thing from happening again as a result of the Zio state pushing that forward. She is a great podcaster. And she's done a really good job of cultivating a very strong network of people and a very loyal audience as well. I have been saying it for years. Her supporters, they love her. So when she decided to go out on her own, I thought she'd be fine. Now, I can't say the same for a lot of other members of Conservative Inc., that if they're not getting paid off by the corporate Zio lobby, that they would have any chance of surviving. They'll fold up like a cheap fucking suit. That includes people like Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh. But from what I've seen, the only two members of conservative politics that I've seen legitimately have principle and are willing to fight, I'm talking about podcasters. It's Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. That's it. Now, maybe Charlie Kirk was getting there as a person, but there is no question that he was made an example of. Candace Owens fights harder for Charlie Kirk than his widow and his own family. Something's very wrong here. Something is very off, and it doesn't make any sense. Now, why is that? Because I believe, with rare exception, that everyone has been given the talking to. You get out of line, your fate will be not too different from the one that Charlie suffered from. Candace has my respect and my honor because she really has put herself in harm's way. Credit where it's due.
They just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or it doesn't serve us, and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already.
I mean, could not say it better. Let's give you Juneteenth instead of giving you good bank loan opportunities. Let's give you Juneteenth rather than giving you single payer health care. Let's give you Juneteenth instead of giving you tuition-free trade schools. Let's give you Juneteenth without undoing the crime bill. Let's give you Juneteenth without restoring Glass-Steagall. Let's give you Juneteenth instead of giving you reparations. Candace has got it.
They did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking bullet. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you.
I didn't say it. She said it. And she knows it. She knew it from the second it happened. And she's probably seen that video as well from Ryan Simmons. Pow! If that was a sniper shot through the neck, a slow motion shot would have at least been able to capture the point of entry. There is none. Because it wasn't a sniper shot. It was an explosive. We're going to get to that in a minute.
There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. They're like Holiday in a boulevard. And it's never on the nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not going to be a nice side of town. Anyways, I will be back on the 27th, you guys. Thank you guys for all the support throughout these couple of weeks, these last really kind of 6 weeks since Charlie died. And we will see you guys then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think her life has definitely taken a very interesting turn. You can't look at things the same. And as I've said, I'm not a supporter of Charlie Kirk. I went to one Turning Point USA event, and I saw what I needed to see. It's big business. But you try to get in the way of that, even if it's a genocide that you're trying to stand up against? Nope, that doesn't work. But Candace decided to say something that I think probably surprised all of you guys. She just came right out and said they killed him, and she is putting responsibility on the shoulders of the President of the United States. And we said, or as our friend of the show, Anthony Aguilar, said, the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a warning to President Trump. There is another interesting character that is involved in this mess. His name is Mike McCoy. Now, if you don't know who Mike McCoy is, friend of the show, James Lee, is going to educate you all on that.
Let's take a closer look at the behavior of the amazing Mikey McCoy in the seconds and minutes after Charlie Kirk's life was tragically taken away. This is footage compiled by Sam Parker. You can see Mikey identified there on the left, or standing next to the left of the tent. Charlie Kirk has just a few seconds left here on this earth. And you can see here, as soon as Charlie is hit, Mikey, in one swift motion, picks up the phone and looks to be calling someone. Very odd. He doesn't duck down like everybody else. He doesn't run to Charlie's aid. He literally picks up the phone and turns around and starts walking. Back to the footage one more time. You can see, again, Charlie is hit. Mikey.
It just doesn't make any sense other than this was an inside job and several people were in on it and knew exactly what needed to be done once the plan was executed. No pun intended. But this guy, Mikey McCoy, sure looks like he had a hand in this, doesn't it, guys?
One movement, picks up the phone and starts walking. You'll see him disappear from view to the back of the tent, and he will reappear in just a few seconds.
Watch it one more time.
Starts walking. Back to the footage one more time. You can see, again, Charlie is hit. Mikey, one movement, picks up the phone and starts walking. You'll see him disappear from view to the back of the tent, and he will reappear in just a few seconds. And there he is again. You can clearly see that he appears to be on the phone with somebody. That is just odd behavior. I'm sorry. It's very, very weird. You know, it's not criminal behavior, but it is very, very weird. You know, he's just so calm. Here it is, another angle. You can see Charlie below being carried into the SUV, and Mikey is in the distance, looks to be still just on the phone, casually strolling away from the scene of the crime. Is that normal? And maybe the bigger question I'm thinking, and you're probably wondering the same thing too, is who was he calling? Well, I did some digging, and according to the New York Times, it was one Erica Kirk.
I mean, I don't know how they get people to act this way, I think is the big is the big issue here. How do you convince people to just go along with this? The only way that I believe that it's possible to convince people to play along is if everybody's under the threat of assassination. It's pretty much the only thing that makes sense. Now, most people don't want to die, and I can certainly understand that. But the idea that this guy, Mike McCoy, in the instant that Charlie is attacked, this guy picks up the phone and calls his wife? Who the hell is he to call his wife? In the process of this happening. Longtime assistant Mike McCoy doesn't even wait to see what actually happened. Let's just call her right away. Maybe freak her out while you're at it. Who knows? We don't know the depths of how far this goes, but what we do know, as a lot of people have suspected. Now, again, I don't know Erica's involvement in this whole fiasco. I'm suspicious of her. And I am very suspicious of her very close business partner, Andrew Colvett. And now this guy, Mike McCoy, who has been working with Charlie Kirk for many years, had the calm disposition in the midst of a clear assassination. Not an assassination attempt, but an assassination that was brought to fruition. And his first instinct was, let me pick up the phone and call Erica Kirk. What did they say? Or what did he say? It's done. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. But my God, if there is not a lot of smoke around this whole thing. You guys already know where I stand on this. I want to know when enough people are going to say, I've had enough of this. And when members of Conservative Inc. and even liberal politics who just want to swipe this under the rug, because in the end, we all know who the powers that be answer to. There's a reason why this story doesn't get anywhere near the traction that it does. And why they constantly say, release the Epstein files, which we absolutely want to see released. But they know that there's political gamesmanship involved with the Epstein files. It's much more sinister with the Charlie Kirk assassination. This is something that I am not convinced Israel is going to be able to hold off on. They're desperately trying, but I don't think it's going to work. I think they're going to lose. And I think this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because I believe that millions of Christian Zionists, when they, whether confirmed or not, believe that Israel assassinated Charlie Kirk, the mass exodus will begin, if it hasn't already.
Miss Kirk was sitting in her mother's hospital room at 11:23 a.m. local time in Phoenix when she saw the number of her husband's longtime assistant, Michael McCoy, appear on her phone. In retrospect, she said she knew the words, "He's been shot," before Mr. McCoy screamed them. According to official records, Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 11:23 in Phoenix. So if the New York Times is being 100% accurate, the only person that Mikey could have been on the phone with is Erica. So look, maybe Mikey was just doing his job. He's just Mr. Cool, extreme composure in the face of emergency. Some people have that kind of ability. I don't. Some people do. But the weird part in all this that I can't really let go of is that he witnessed practically nothing, right? He saw Charlie get shot, then he picks up his phone, supposedly calls Erica, immediately turns around, walks away. He didn't even look at Charlie, so he would really have no idea of Charlie's condition. unless, of course, he was told by somebody. Maybe somebody was feeding him the information as he was on the phone. I don't know. Or the quiet part out loud is maybe he knew something was going to happen before it did. Oh, and one last little bit. You'll never believe who was searching for one Mikey McCoy a few months before Charlie's death in July of 2025. I won't say it, but you can see it.
We all know what the answer is. All of these puzzle pieces fit. And the reason they fit, and I see you, Raman. I'm contemplating doing a story on George Zinn. Maybe we'll do that next weekend. But the fact that Mikey McCoy was involved in State Department / Mossad Oppo research 2 months prior to the assassination,
we told him we were going to make him an offer he couldn't refuse, and he didn't refuse it. But unfortunately, Charlie refused his offer. And, well, you saw what happened to Charlie. It'd be smart not to make the same mistake. I hope you've all appreciated this lesson. Further instances won't be necessary.
So that's what happened.
Searching for one Mikey McCoy a few months before Charlie's death in July of 2025. I won't say it, but you can see it. And of course, guess what it looks like now? The exact search parameters yielding no results, not enough data. Just another coincidence, so they say, in what is now becoming a long, long, long string of them.
There will be others. If you haven't smashed that like button, please do. We have been hovering at 1,000 live viewers tonight. We've only done it like, I want to say 3 or 4 times total, I think, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. But we're making moves, and you guys are here this evening, and I hope you're enjoying it all, which means, of course, I can't leave just yet. But I 1,000%, no question, agree with James. He is one of the best investigative journalists we have right now. He is doing incredible work. And I worry about his safety. I worry about what could happen to him. He has taken exceptional risk and presenting all of this additional information. I see you guys putting it in the chat. I will mark it down for next Saturday to do a little expose, if you will, on this George Zinn, the guy who shouted out at the assassination, "I did it! I did it!" And of course, we know that's not true. And it is as clear as anything I've ever seen that there are several people involved in this assassination and its cover-up. And one would ask, why would this become an important slice of the revolutionary change message? Because it is so clear, if you can't see it yet, so clear that this is about Israel, that this is about this unholy alliance that we have had with this genocidal state for over 75 years, that, in my humble opinion, based on a lot of research, is responsible for the assassination of our sitting president, had the vice president of that assassinated president in their back pocket, and in addition, committed the most heinous maritime act on our country that we've ever had. And it wasn't in any way retaliated against. And of course, I'm talking about the attack on the USS Liberty. We have reached a point of no return with this genocidal, psychopathic state. I would like to think that at least I hope I did, convey a pretty good pattern of information for all of you to digest this evening, because it's all connected, all of it. And that's what I try to do. If I'm doing a good job, which I hope you guys think I'm doing, that this is a pivotal point in terms of where we go from here. Now, on Monday, we were supposed to have a guest this evening. Zach, unfortunately, I'm guessing wasn't able to make it. It happens. But as you know, I can handle these pontifications solo, which is never a problem. For Monday, we're going to talk about Zoran Mamdani and this amazing speech that he gave in response to the absolute lunacy of bigotry from both Cuomo and Sola. But let's be honest, it was done at the behest of the likes of Bill Ackman and the Zio-Nazi state that cannot handle, that are losing their collective minds over the prospect of an Indian Muslim socialist having the reins of New York City for 4 years. Now, whether that's your political ideology or not, it's good to see them losing their fucking minds. And little by little, we'll pull that veil away. 5149 is the name of James Lee's podcast, and we will put that in the description afterwards. We are also going to talk about, on Monday, we are going to talk about the private funding of our military and how dangerous this is going to get. How this is an example of the late stage capitalism and the breaking of our very system. 130 million, of which apparently, I could be wrong about this, we're going to need a little bit more evidence, but this is what was brought to my attention. The anonymous donor who gave $130 million to fund U.S. troops during the federal shutdown is reportedly Timothy Mellon, the same billionaire who gave $53 million to build Texas's private border wall. He's also funded several of Trump's super PACs. When it gets to the point where we are completely captured by corporate special interests, the system will not stand. By law, only Congress is allowed to fund the military. Because this system is so broken, and because the powers that be are just as crooked and bought off as Trump is, when Trump actually commits legitimate criminal activity, like a lot of others have, this is what doesn't actually get prosecuted. It's the real crimes that get left on the side. And now we see them for what they're worth. We are living in a banana republic where the rule of law no longer applies, where people have lost complete faith in the system and rightfully so. I know I have. I lost my faith in the system a long, long time ago. It was always teetering, but when I watched Debbie Wasserman Schultz lead the Democratic Party establishment in a covert and overt manipulative campaign of sabotage and theft of the Democratic Party nomination for President of the United States in 2016 away from Bernie Sanders, and they were allowed to get away with it. That was the end for me. I would agree, Nancy. When a president of the United States tries to conduct himself as commander-in-chief, as has been written in our Constitution, the founding document that I still believe in, we have been taken over by a bunch of Benedict Arnolds that use the very foundations and principles of our nation to convert it into everything we hoped that it wouldn't be. We were always warned by men of yesteryear, particularly the smartest members of our founding fathers' delegation, that if America was going to fall, it was going to be a result of its own people bringing them down. America tried to be great, but it never was. America was great for a very small portion of the population. And for a period of time, particularly in the rarefied air of the days of Teddy Roosevelt at the turn of the 20th century, and for an ever so brief generation of time, that the World War II generation and their boomer children, particularly from 1945 until 1963, were able to benefit significantly from a top marginal tax rate that hung around for about 20, 25 years at about 90+%. But it was a country that was still and always divided along racial lines, along cultural lines, along social lines, along religious lines. Despite what it tried to be, it could never be. Because financially, it benefits people to have the masses divided. Now, I know Jen is a lot more of a bleeding heart than I am, and I know she feels the need to throw her opinion in when I'm giving my pontification. But let me be very clear about this. America was great for affluent white people, predominantly. People of other cultures, however small, benefited as well. But make no mistake, this is a class war. We are divided along economic lines more than any other. Do we have issues with bigotry in this country? Absolutely, but nothing like we once did. Do we have problems with different cultures assimilating into American culture? Yes, but not like we once did. Most of the problems that we face are from the fact that America ended up becoming an empire beyond recognition after World War II, and we've never wrestled with this reality that our nation is nowhere near as special as we like to pretend that it is. For many in conservative America in particular, who fancy this country to be something that it really isn't, and for their austerity-minded approach to economics, that everything is bootstrap related, and if you can't hack it, then that's your problem, not the system. I hope that enough people are starting to realize that this is an us against them system. And it has nothing to do with whether or not we're divided along those lines. I have said before, and I will say again, you know why we have an immigrant problem in the United States? Because the average worker wants to be able to work and to live at the same time. And the powers that be don't want that. They want slaves. And if you can't legally put people on a plantation, we can legally put them in a field and make them work for pennies on the dollar, because their situation is as desperate as it can possibly be. So we turn on each other instead of turning on the very people that have made it this way. Capitalism has failed because capitalism can't survive on its own. It will inevitably, as those that espouse that socialism doesn't work because eventually you run out of other people's money. No, in reality, capitalism fails because eventually you run out of people to exploit. You cannot sustain this system any longer unless your eyes wide shut. You want to bury your head in the sand and pretend that America could keep going. But our trusty mod, quoting one of the great satirists of all time, Carlin was absolutely right. It's called the American dream because you'd have to be asleep to believe it. You can like capitalism, but capitalism will only benefit a select few. And runaway capitalism, which is in fascist territory, is going to engulf us all. A system that balances itself with capitalism and socialism is the only way it can survive. It's been proven in several other nations around the world. If you believe in the free market, which I do, it must be balanced with a social safety net that allows people to survive and thrive. Everyone should have a living wage. Everyone should have health care. Everyone should be able to learn a trade if they want to. Why do we not live in a country that wants to educate its populace to do things that actually make us a better country? Instead, we're dealing with things like H-1B visas by bringing in people from other parts of the world because we don't want to actually have a system here that trains our citizenry to do these jobs. We all should be useful, and we can be, but we're taught that it's not the American way. And it hasn't been for a very long time. Because those that have bastardized the system have made us all slaves at different levels. Now, some of us are surviving. Some are even surviving and thriving. And some are really thriving, but very few. If you want to succeed in this country, and you do not have a crutch to fall back on, like a rich uncle, for example, in many, many ways, you have to get lucky. I have lived on the edge for more years than I would like to count. Now, I'm a survivor, and I know how to do it. I have a lot of, we'll just say, survival skills in my toolbox. But I don't want to live this way. I don't want to have to be just getting by. That's not a way to live. I won't sell out, but I know we can be a lot better than this. We are not good for many reasons. And one of the many reasons that we are not good is because we refuse to accept that America is not exceptional. And it probably never was. There are definite advantages to this country that we could have, but we have gotten sloppy. We have gotten lazy, and we undermine our people. We all deserve better. We have failed in more ways than I can count. And I hate saying that because I love this country. I love that flag. And I love what it could be and what it should represent. But it doesn't. And we have to stop pretending that it does. We have to stop pretending. Especially if anybody who's here who supports the president. You have to stop pretending that he was the solution. Now, we're going to be the first ones to tell you that the solution is not the Democrats. In fact, they're even worse. The solution is collective organizing amongst the working class. That's the solution. That is the only way out of this. It is a class war, nothing more. When we talk about Jews in the United States that cause our grief, that make it bad for all Jews, we're talking about those that sit on the mountaintops. We're talking about people that have money in their own pocket and access to money that you couldn't even comprehend. And I know a lot of these people because I'm in commercial real estate. I know people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And some of them are the cheapest SOBs that you could possibly imagine. And they look down upon the average person in contemptible ways that would shock the shit out of you. Some of them take pleasure in people's suffering. If we don't make this about class, if we don't make this, if we do not recognize that the only way that we are going to have revolutionary change in the United States of America, the only way it happens is if we put our differences aside and recognize that this is an us against them fight. You are either a part of the elite ruling class, of which there are only, I don't know, maybe a couple 100,000 people, if it's even that many. And then you have the 330 million others that are not part of it, that whether they are sitting on a certain level on the economic totem pole doesn't really matter. Because in the end, Charlie Kirk was part of the 1%, but he wasn't part of the top 0.00001%. He was just an expendable appendage of the system. We all are. So let's stop kidding ourselves. And let's start fighting along class lines. The sooner we recognize that reality, the sooner we will get to the United States that we all hoped it would be many years ago. For the final time this evening, please go to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. And if you are so inclined to leave a super chat, it looks like we got a few more. So I do want to give a big shout out to Zizzy. Thank you very, very much for the $20 super sticker. Really appreciate you. Cheetah with the $5. Free Palestine, free the US from Zios. Couldn't agree with you more. Libertarian Social Democrat, good to see you. Alex Stein and Hodge twins are also Zio critics. Yes, they are. I got to give credit where credit's due because I do not like Alex Stein even a little bit. I think he's a fucking douchebag. But you know what? He can be my douchebag. And he's a Jew. So for him to be critical of Israel the way that he has, and he's on the conservative side of politics, bravo. I'll fight alongside you. Kenman with the $6.99 Canadian A. How do you deal with ordinary people who refuse to admit that this was a conspiracy? How do you handle your anger? The only thing you could do is continue to speak truth to power. That's our job. And look, it's kind of like the Titanic. Some people are just not going to get off the ship. Some people are going to go down with it. Some people are going to go down with Israel. Some people are going to go down with this broken country. That's on them. We've got another fight on our hands. That's our job. So we keep fighting. Charlie Circus, thank you so much for gifting 5 Revolutionary Change memberships. I don't know what's going on in that picture. It looks like something from Nintendo back in the day, but it also looks like some type of humping activity. So I don't want to be wrong in my assessment of that. I could be wrong. I just know what it looks like. But if you would care to comment as to what game that is from, I hope to stand corrected, of course. And Kenman with the 279 Canadian A, even Ray Charles sees that this was a conspiracy. I agree. So, with that said, we've had an amazing crowd this evening. We got nearly to 1,000 live viewers. We didn't quite get there. I think we got to like 985 or 990. We were just on the cusp. But now it is time to say goodnight. We've got a number of great stories to talk about on Monday. It's extremely gratifying, as I said, that all of you are here, that you enjoy this conversation. I like you all very much. I love you all very much, even if we don't agree. Maybe on a lot, maybe on a little, but on enough that we've created a community here where everyone feels welcome, no matter where you stand politically. I hope the message resonates. Thank you all. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you Monday. Free Palestine. Good night, guys.